Disclaimer. The following is a fan-made story inspired by the works of Jodo Boy, aka Loser Makes Games. Namely, that of Sonic PC, which is the universe this tale takes place. At the time of this story being written, the game has not been released, so it will likely differ from this story. Sonic.EXE is co-owned by Jodo Boy and Shay. Please support them in their future work. And as a final warning, this story contains content that might be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Now, without any further delay, enjoy the story.
For the first time in a long time, as I was approaching the circus, I didn't know what I could expect. This is unlike anything X had ever thrown me into before. The places he would throw me into were always so tight and linear, never this wide open. I guess he was just never a fan of open world levels. The closer I got, the more I could make out. Tons of extremely tall and flashy rides, games, prizes, and concession stands. It seemed more like a carnival than a circus. When I finally reached the gate, I was greeted with a giant sign and flashing blue and white light bulbs. Joyland, it read. What a name. With an even better view of everything, I was surprised at how pristine and functional this place looked. With X's track record, I expected to see this place all run down or full of rides doubling as torture machines, but no. It was just a normal carnival. Although, normal wouldn't be the appropriate word because it was bigger and brighter than anything I've ever seen. I approached the ticket booth next to the locked gate, only to find it empty. I pressed my face up against the window to see inside. But before I could let out a faint hello, a bright white face with dark eyes sprung up from the floor, squishing its massive blue nose against the glass. Boo! It yelled, sending me stumbling to the ground as it laughed.
Welcome to Joyland, friend. I must say you're in for a real treat today. If you have a ticket, that is.
As I got back on my feet, I was getting ready to ask what ticket he was talking about, but I quickly noticed a little piece of red paper in my hand. It was hand-cut into the shape of a ticket, with Admit 1 hastily scrawled onto it. I just sighed and accepted that shit was only gonna get weirder from here on out. As I handed my ticket through the hole in the glass, I was able to get a better look at the figure. It looked to be some sort of grotesque clown. It wore a mask that I realized was what was once a human face, painted white. The eye sockets and mouth were stretched upwards to form an exaggerated smile. Through the mouth hole of the mask, I could see gnarled but surprisingly human teeth, far too small for how wide the smile of the mask was stretched. The eyes were black holes, save for glowing deep blue irises with very dilated pupils. His long blue nose seemed to poke through a hole in the mask. All of that left me to needlessly wonder what was underneath. All I could see of his outfit was his blue, stitched-together jester hat, with at least 6 of those long points, 2 on each side drooping down to resemble a hedgehog's quills.
Ah, there we are. The big top is straight ahead. Hurry along now, the show's starting any minute.
Before I could ask any questions, the clown ducked down out of sight. With no other possible leads, I headed straight. Looking closer at the carnival games, I realized they weren't as innocent as I had thought. It was a pretty dumb thing to think anyway. Ring toss games, but with bones and limbs instead of bottles. Dead and maimed animals for prizes instead of plush toys. Even a dunk tank full of piranhas. It was also macabre to an almost comical degree. Oh, yeah, because clowns and shit. Right. Now everything fits into that edgy style X loves so much. In what seemed to be the center of the carnival was a massive red, white, and black striped circus tent. On the top was a giant blue balloon tied into the shape of a K. The closest thing I had to a guess about what it meant was thinking, you don't spell carnival with a K, dumbass. It was dark inside the tent, save for dim lights on the floor illuminating walkways between all the seats. I have no idea how all of that could fit into a tent, but I'll do myself a favor and not waste time trying to figure it out. It was a massive auditorium lined with comfy-looking, yet empty theater chairs.
There were quite a few balcony seats higher up, each with their own set of red curtains pulled aside. The walls and ceiling were lined with all sorts of patterns and faces in shining gold, sculpted on top of the pale yellow colors of the walls. I decided a seat near the back would be my safest option, in case the show stage held something I shouldn't get too close to, or if I just needed to make a quick exit. Yes, throwing myself into the literal center of this place sounds dumb, but if I have learned anything from living in this world, it's that playing along leads to less suffering in the end, and I would prefer to keep things as manageable as possible. So play along I shall. A moment after I was seated, the lights dimmed even further as pale blue and red spotlights began to pan all over the stage's curtain as the sound of a drum roll filled the room. The curtains were drawn as the spotlights fixed on what I thought was a tall figure. But after a second, I realized they were actually quite short, but were balancing on 3 rubber balls in varying shades of blue. It was the same clown from the ticket booth.
Welcome, one and all, to Kofuku's Joyland! Thank you all for coming. Here at my carnival / circus / funfair / whatever you'd like to call it, we make sure no one ever leaves without a smile!
In spite of the empty seats, I could hear the sounds of a clapping and cheering crowd. The sound was all around me, yet muffled. Was it coming from outside the tent or something?
Now, I know you're all very eager for the show to begin, but first, we have to welcome a very special guest.
My heart skipped a beat for a moment, because I knew exactly where this was going. This guest was obviously gonna be...
Alan! Let's give the man of the hour a round of applause!
The spotlights all pointed at me as the clapping continued.
Step right up, friend!
Before I could protest, the clown's arm stretched out cartoonishly long to grab me from my seat in the back, and swiftly pulled me up onto the stage. The spotlights remained fixed on me from my seat to the stage with their blinding glare. It was one thing to be pulled to the stage through the air, but it was another to be held 3 big rubber balls off the ground. With the light still blinding me, the only thing I could see clearly was the floor, a decent drop below me, which, before I realized it, I was plummeting towards, only for my fall to be intercepted and cushioned by one of those rubber balls, while the clown assumedly dismounted, flipping me to face towards the crowd. There was a crowd now. As my vision struggled to adjust, I could almost make out silhouettes now filling the seats in front of me, but I couldn't make out any details. I couldn't even tell if they were human, just vague, shadowy shapes. But I wasn't given much time to get my bearings, as the clown, Kofuku I guess, spun me around again to face him.
I absolutely must commend you, Alan. Such a brave soul you are. Our Lord X has given you the ultimate test, the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to go home. That is a chance very few have ever been afforded. If he deems you worthy, you surely must have earned it. Well done indeed.
He paused so the crowd of mist could briefly clap for me.
I must say, you have quite the journey ahead of you. So let's consider this a going-away party. One last hurrah before your quest finally begins. I'd say you've earned the right to a little fun, yes? Say, when's your birthday, friend?
Fun. That damn word had been repeated ad nauseum in my time here. Still throws me for a loop. For some reason, though, despite my willingness to play along, I didn't want to tell him such personal details about me. But then I realized I couldn't share if I wanted to. I can't remember.
What? Why, that's like having no birthday at all! This just cannot stand! Apologies, folks, but the show must be delayed for a little longer. This poor fellow needs a proper birthday party right away!
His arm swiftly extended backstage and retrieved a white and blue striped party hat before strapping it to my head. He then quickly ushered me back behind the curtains as he addressed the crowd one last time.
We'll be back in about an hour for the show. Thank you all for your patience,
he said as he took a bow and motioned as if he were taking a hat off. Before I knew it, I was sat down in a rickety old wooden chair in front of an equally rickety and old table.
Now you stay right there. We'll make this a party to remember.
Without another word, the clown started running all around and in and out of the room at blinding speeds. At times, it looked like he was in 2 places at once. In a few short moments, backstage went from a vague and dark shithole to a defined shithole filled with balloons, streamers, and whirling candlelight. No amount of decoration could hide the decaying walls and unfinished roof. Another brief moment passed, and that candlelight was placed in front of me on top of a surprisingly nice-looking cake. White with blue puffs of frosting along the edges, with a big candle in the shape of a question mark.
Since I didn't have a year to work with, I decided to work with the lack of one.
Uh-huh. My gaze rapidly switched between him and the cake, unsure which I should be more concerned about.
Well, what are you waiting for? Make a wish!
Not even wanting to try to think of anything, I just paused like I actually was thinking, and blew out the candles.
Hip hip hooray! Happy happy birthday! Now the festivities can really start!
The clown promptly began pacing back and forth, lost in thought.
What to do, what to do?
I didn't know just how lost in his thoughts he was, so I didn't want to treat this moment as an opening.
Oh, I know! I'll give you a tour of Joyland! Oh, it'll be so much fun! We'll ride all the rides, play all the games, see all there is to see! This'll be a day you'll never forget!
Even after dying 1,000 times, the prospect of a tour of this place is somehow even more daunting. Just play along, I thought. You'll find your chance.
Come along now! There's so much to show you!
He walked me back out through the curtains, but instead of returning to the stage, we immediately wound up back outside. You'd think I'd have gone through and seen enough to not have to do a double take, but this place is just full of surprises.
My, I just don't know where to start. Rides, games, food, we just have it all, don't we? What sounds fun to you?
Games, I guess?
Wonderful! Let's see here. We have ring toss, ball toss, skull toss. You wouldn't believe the difference between those. Balloon
He
pop,
continued on and on, seemingly naming every game in the carnival, broadly gesturing all around us. I had nearly zoned out through all the names until he finished and clapped his hands together.
So, take your pick.
I looked around at the bizarre-looking games, until my eye was caught by a familiar golden glint. Rings. How about ring toss?
Splendid! Right this way!
He then quite literally slithered like a snake at absurd speeds towards and behind the booth, only to pop up inside it, excitedly waving me over. As I reached the booth, I looked at the booth-length tray full of rings. For some reason, the varied sizes were rather odd to me. I was only able to ponder them for a moment when he showed off the different posts to toss the rings onto. All were different heights, widths, and objects. Some were bones, some were fresher limbs. There were tree branches, plastic pipes, and even parts of checkpoint posts. So I just went ahead and, tossed some rings. I started off with larger rings on smaller targets, but I eventually figured I'd challenge myself and use smaller rings on larger targets. Every miss was punctuated by a "you can do it" or an "oh, so close" from the clown. Looking at those smaller rings, I had an idea. As the game concluded, I grabbed one and put it on my finger while his back was turned. It might be stupid, but it wouldn't hurt to have a last resort. The rest of the games, as fucked up as they were, aren't really worth noting. Learning there actually wasn't much of a difference between ball toss and skull toss, not even aerodynamically, or the clown laughing as he got bitten by the piranhas in the dunk tank, or how he rapidly dashed from booth to booth, manually running each and every one. The real noteworthy thing started back up when he was taking me to one of the rides. He was rambling on about the functions of one of the rides, or something, when I heard a faint pair of footsteps from behind. Before I could turn around, a small rabbit girl ran between us, stopped, and turned to face us. She looked like Cream the Rabbit, but more tailored to this place. She was covered with seams, stitches, and tears with cotton poking out, as if she were a living doll. Her dress was tattered, the bottoms of her shoes were stained with old, nearly brown blood. Her eyes were bloodshot and her mouth was stitched shut into a wide smile. She tilted her head curiously as she looked at me. I guess not everyone got the memo on my little quest.
Oh, Alice, there you are! Have you been having fun? Been staying safe, I hope?
Before he could finish, the rabbit jumped backwards to dodge a large, tattered pink sledgehammer crashing down between me and the clown.
Get back here, damn it!
The hammer's wielder yelled, as the rabbit proceeded to not do that. She ran past us to give chase, so all I saw was her back. Looked like a pink hedgehog in a worn, greenish-gray trench coat. I did my best not to pay her any mind at the time. Friend or foe, she was preoccupied. Nothing for me to worry about yet.
Oh dear, I leave you alone for 1 minute!
The clown wound up in a cartoonish position, ready to run after them when he told me.
Now you stay right there. I'll be just a moment.
The upbeat and excited attitude he's had this entire time seemed to falter, even for only a little bit. With that, he bolted off after the two newcomers. I quickly tried to make a better assessment of my surroundings, looking for any possible escape route. I looked towards a medium-sized roller coaster, giving it brief consideration as I looked around further. But as my eyes fell back on it, it changed. It was taller. No, it wasn't just taller. It was getting taller. The tracks soundlessly stretched outward and up, growing larger and more twisted with every moment, as the lights flickered and broke. Looking around, I saw that the entire carnival seemed to warp, the features of each ride and booth gradually exaggerating to the highest extent. Carousels spun so fast they became cylindrical blurs of light and sound, the music from their speakers speeding up and distorting. The gravel walkways grew into larger cobblestones and even into some small boulders. The grim remains in the game booths seemed to grow the rest of themselves back, but all wrong and mangled. Anything that managed to grow any semblance of a throat let out all sorts of agonized sounds. Some groaned, some screamed, and some could only let out a faint wheeze. The entire carnival was somehow unraveling, yet forcing itself to stay together at the same time. The ground began to shake as I saw the rocks below me dip downward. A sinkhole was forming, and fast. I only took a few steps to run when a familiar gloved hand stretched out from around the corner and grabbed onto my arm. It then recoiled back to where it came, as the speed of it dragging me blurred my vision. But as I came to a stop and was set down, everything looked normal again. What passes for normal around here, anyway? Carousels were spinning at the right speed, roller coasters were at the right size, and any sounds of pain were silenced into the gored limbs they were before. It all just stopped.
On second thought, I'd best keep an eye on you. Can't have you leaving before the big show.
Where did they go?
Where did who go? All right. Wait, where did they?
He was interrupted by a familiar sledgehammer crashing into his chest, sending him careening into a nearby booth that crumbled apart with the impact. I turned to the wielder once more to see that the estimation of Pink Hedgehog was pretty spot on. She looked similar to Amy Rose, but just as worn as her surprisingly normal outfit. Whether by age, combat, or repeated death, I couldn't tell. All that was evident was the look of determination on her face.
Don't just stand there, let's get the hell out of here!
Wait, I don't think we can just yet. Something isn't right. I could be wrong, but it seems like the farther away from him we go, everything—
Yeah, I know shit falls apart. That doesn't matter. I know you're trying to get out too, and this is our chance, so shut up and run!
From one gloved hand dragging me along to another, she grabbed onto my wrist and ran. As we were trying to escape, the world slowly started to warp the further away we got from the clown. But as soon as it had started, it returned back to normal. Before I could register this fact, we were each met with an outstretched hand grabbing onto our ankles, sending us to the ground face first. We were dragged backwards across the gravel for a moment and being lifted a little ways into the air. Holding us in the air upside down, we were met with Kofuku, his arms almost normal length again.
My, you two are just so impatient, aren't you? Running off like that. Well then, I suppose I can make an exception for you two.
He spun around like a blue tornado, flinging us toward the big top tent's entrance. Instead of the theater I saw beforehand, it was just pitch black, as we landed roughly on what felt like a metallic floor.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I've been through worse.
That makes two of us.
As we got to our feet, the darkness was cut through by a ring of flashing white and blue lights above us, like the ones lining a carousel, but turned inward instead. Then on both sides, the rings of lights were enclosed by even larger ones, these flashing white and red. I tried to look past the lights at the faintly illuminated shapes surrounding us, seemingly intertwined with poles spanning from the ceiling to below the stage. Just as the realization hit me, red, white, and blue lights lining the walls illuminated the whole tent clearly, revealing it wasn't a tent at all. It was like we were on a stage inside a giant merry-go-round, save for the central motor. We were indeed surrounded by carousel seats, but instead of normal horses, there were ones hastily welded together out of scrap metal to vaguely resemble a horse, but the majority were various animal carcasses impaled on the poles, all in different stages of decomposition.
What the hell is this?
This.
The sound of mechanical whirring consumed the air as all the ride's tracks began to spin all around us, and distorted carnival music began to blare through unseen speakers.
Is our grand finale!
The two of us stared down the clown standing on one of the welded-together horses of the carousel, waiting for him to make his move. I tried to take this brief moment to grab the ring I had stolen earlier.
Listen, I have a plan, but we need to—
But I was stopped in my tracks when I heard a loud boing followed by two thuds, one louder and more metallic than the other. A segment of the floor protruded upwards as a spring, knocking the girl off her feet. The clown began to laugh as I looked down at the floor, seeing circular seams all around. They were all springs.
Hey, don't step on the...
Yeah, I got the memo.
She said, growing irritated with the rough landings. In spite of the loud sounds of machinery all around us, we still heard the sound of hatches slamming open. In the walls of the room there were 4 hatches, each housing brightly painted circus cannons. They all fired out these oddly small cannonballs at once, going in clockwise order. They didn't fire with much force, so getting nailed in the foot didn't hurt as bad as it could have. I looked down at the ball that had hit me. It had a blue smiley face with X's for eyes hastily painted on. I picked it up, getting ready to use it as a weapon, but I heard the girl shout,
Quick! Throw it! Throw it now!
Before I could finish, all 4 balls, in the order they were fired, exploded into clouds of white and blue smoke. They all blended together into a hazy shade of sky blue, nearly blinding us save for the lights whirling around us.
Catch me if you can!
Kofuku laughed as he landed on the stage with a light thud. Just as I started to get my bearings through the fog, I was blinded even more intensely by a series of strobe lights. I could barely comprehend the shapes in front of me. I could just faintly see the silhouettes of the clown and the girl.
Ooh, where am I? Where am I?
The clown mocked, jumping all around. The cannons fired off again, but this time they were what were probably dodgeballs, considering the sound one made as it struck me square in the stomach. The cannons fired at least 3 times over, adding to the sounds of the balls bouncing around and the springs popping out of the floor. I think even the clown got hit and bounced a few times, as he let out what sounded like the combination of a yelp and a laugh. Eventually, the smoke cleared, lifting at least 1 layer of the maddening levels of disorientation. It was still hard to see with the strobe lights, but I could still make something out. The tent entrance we were thrown in from. If we could just get through it, I could use the ring and get us out of here. But the poles and seats of the carousel spinning around us made sure that a clear shot out would be impossible. When I heard the sound of the cannons firing off more rounds and didn't hear the same rubbery bounce, that's when I had an idea. 2 of the balls had landed near me, and without wasting a second, I grabbed them both and quickly threw them as far away from me as I could. The girl saw what I was doing and seemed to get the same idea, as she hit a ball near her with her hammer as if it were a golf club. Then, one by one, explosions of blue and white smoke bellowed from the depths of the carousel, and soon darker smoke followed as the mechanical whirring devolved into loud grinding, and soon stopped entirely, leaving only the music blaring through the speakers to occupy the air.
No, 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 no! I just finished building it!
As he panicked, the 4th and final ball neither of us managed to throw made its way to him, and exploded into one last cloud of smoke. That was the opening. Without another word, we ran through the smoke, hopped along the carousel seats, and scrambled out the way we came. We kept running deeper into the carnival as the world around us began to unravel once again, but at a slower pace this time.
How could you do that? We were having so much fun! Please come back, we haven't even gotten to the best part yet!
Alright, smart guy, what's the plan?
I'm gonna throw this ring way ahead of us, and hopefully it's a warp ring.
Are you crazy? What makes you think that would even work?
Because if that wrinkly fuck loves Sonic so much that he made a whole pocket dimension based on it, then it isn't crazy to assume that things would work the same way in it.
Fair enough, but we need a head start. Give it to me.
I handed her the ring, and she immediately stopped running. I did too for a moment, yelling out,
What are you doing?
Go long!
As the ground stabilized below her with the clown's approaching presence, she gently tossed the ring up into the air, readied her hammer, and launched it far ahead of me. It soon bounced off the ground where it landed, and expanded to a giant size, more than enough to jump through.
It worked!
Yeah, I can see that.
I wasn't finished! We weren't finished!
Before he could finish, the hedgehog swung her hammer one last time, this time directly into his face, sending him flying back again, but not as far this time. Because of that, we had more solid ground to run on, and so we did just that. Side by side, we ran through the ring and jumped through, neither of us sticking the landing. Before either of us could get our bearings in wherever the hell we ended up, we both looked back through the giant ring to see Kofuku lumbering towards us, clearly off balance. Almost nothing was left of his mask, only ribbons of white, blue, and now red hanging from the points at which it was stapled. But beyond that, with the distance between us and the amount of damage the hammer seemed to have done, we couldn't make out his face.
You can't leave yet. We still haven't.
One last time, the rabbit doll girl leaned in from the side of the ring, her head still cocked in curiosity.
You!
Alice, no! Get away from there! Right now, young lady!
I've got you now!
She leapt up to grab the rabbit through the ring, but she waved at us slowly, mockingly almost, as the ring closed and disappeared, leaving the hedgehog to clutch nothing but air, and the both of us in the near dark of early morning.
God fucking God!
She grabbed her hammer and swung it against the ground repeatedly in anger, while I tried to get a proper look at my surroundings.
I spent all this time tracking her. She was right there!
She swung her hammer in sync with her last two words, accentuating her anger.
Why are you so dead set on catching her anyway?
You've never seen her? She's the closest thing to a friend X has. It's not that often she's seen without him. I was trying to catch her and get some answers out of her.
Like, a way to get out?
No, a way to beat him.
You can't be serious.
Oh, like you have any better ideas? How'd you end up at that shithole anyway?
He sent me there. X.
Why? He usually likes to keep his toys for himself.
I was about to explain, but I gave pause for a moment. Yes, she just saved me, but she has to be delusional if she thinks she can kill X. I don't know how she would react to someone getting a potential one-way ticket out of this place, so I just gave her a piece of the truth instead.
I guess he just wanted to shake things up, so to speak.
Sounds about right.
Her curiosity at my situation faded and returned to her previous anger.
I don't care what it takes. I'm gonna find a way to beat him at his own game. He's no god, and I'll be the one to show him that if it's the last thing I do!
She slammed her hammer down one last time, but the impact was different. Instead of the cracking of the earth, it was the squelching of something wet, something fleshy. As the sun slowly began to rise over the horizon, the ground around us was illuminated faintly, and it opened up in places to give way to patches of flesh. Lumps of skin, muscle, eyes, teeth, and bones were scattered all around us, intertwined with the dirt beneath our feet.
Oh God, what now?
She was too busy looking off toward the sun to respond. I looked too and understood her fixation immediately. The sun was rising, a deeper shade of orange, but did so behind the silhouette of a massive building. Made up of multiple blocky segments, it had spaced out windows that glowed an ominous red, topped off with billowing smokestacks on a lower segment of it.
Looks like a factory to me.
Figured as much.
Seeing as this is how my trip to the carnival started, it was safe to assume that this factory is where I'd find the next Guardian.
So, you think you'll find any answers in there?
Got any better ideas, resident smart guy?
No. No, I do not.
Then let's get moving. Oh, and if we're sticking together...
She turned to face me, with her hand extended.
Name's Jake.
I reached out and shook her hand.
Alan, ready when you are.
And with the sun only continuing to rise, I was off to the next level of this mad campaign, with a confidence I now realize I lacked before. And I know why I did in the first place. Because I thought I had to do this alone. But I guess this place just really is full of surprises, as redundant as that may sound. I hope you were able to hear this, whoever you are. I know I finally have company that doesn't want to kill me for a change, but
If there really is someone out there listening outside of all this,
if I've been able to reach out, I wonder if that connection could go both ways. I don't know, but that's all for now. Catch you on the flip side, my imaginary audience.